Hello everyone, I'm Asher and I'm going to be taking this webinar today on the integration of RCC and steel structures. Now we're going to get started in just a couple minutes, just waiting for these last few people to arrive. If you guys could just confirm with me the audio quality on your end, either by raising your hand or just posting a comment, that'd be much appreciated, because I know last week we did, the week before, we did have some errors, some problems as well with the audio quality. So just any confirmation would be awesome. Thank you, guys. Okay, perfect. So I think just the last few people have joined. I can't thank you to all those who confirmed the audio quality. I hope everything's okay. So let's get started. This webinar is on the integration of RCC and steel structures with SIPE. Now, when we talk about the integration with RCC and steel structures, what we're basically talking about with regard to our particular solutions is how our two main structural softwares communicate with one another. And those two softwares are SIPE CAD for our RCC structures, so our reinforced concrete structures, and SIPE 3D for our steel structures. So basically what we're going to go through today, I'm going to just go through a little bit about the workflow and how we sort of go through. I like to sort of start with that and have a look at a few example projects, and then we're going to dive into our solution, and we're going to create a simple structure, and I'm going to demonstrate how this integration takes place with our software. Now, what we can do initially is have a look at this particular diagram. This diagram demonstrates well the workflow, how it works, because I know there's some of you who might be joining. This might be your first webinar. You might not know how we work, so I like to demonstrate it just briefly. Now, I like to use this diagram. Why? It basically just demonstrates the levels of interoperability we have with our software. So initially we start off with a physical 3D model. Now, this physical 3D model can be, of course, created using our IFC Builder software. Now it's free to use, and I'm going to show you where to download that on the BIM Service Center. And basically, you can bring in any other architectural model from any other program, and you can utilize our plugins and our applications to bring in your architectural model into our native IFC format. Now, I'm talking about Revit, ArchiCAD, Allplan, etc., etc. We have the infrastructure to bring in those models into our shared information, which is what I'm going to touch on now. Now, this shared information, basically what it is it's the BIM Service Center. So this is the place where you can download different applications. You can store all your projects on here. You can collaborate with different people on different models. Again, so I can come back here and you can see those different models are all here. So in today's webinar, we're going to be looking at our structural models. So everything that's got to do with the structural members of our project. Now, the list goes on. We have HVAC, we have energy solutions, and yeah, basically all sort of facets when it comes in regards to a real-life construction project. We have the infrastructure and the solutions to model those aspects of that building. Now you can come over here and see, and I can demonstrate it quite well using an example project. This is the Crown Halls project. This is a project in the UK, I believe, and we've replicated it into our native environment. You can see here that my structural model is enabled. So you can see here the things we're going to be looking at a bit later. So our beams, columns, our foundation elements, etc. But if I come over here, you can see all the different models that are attributed to this project. Now I can turn off that structural model and turn on my architectural model. And we can just wait for this to load. And you can see that that architectural model I can view in 3D, all on the internet. So I haven't opened up application, nothing's happened. I can of course model, have a look at the extra models, so I can make this transparent. And you can see here a list of all the different models that are associated with this project. So we had the furniture, office furniture, water equipment. I can have a look. So let's have a look at our furniture. You know, of course, this isn't what I'm just trying to do is demonstrate the capabilities here. So we have the furniture model. Bear with my internet. Usually when I'm running the GoToWebinar and also on any other thing, it's sort of, the GoToWebinar does take up a lot of the, I'm not exactly too sure the technical words, but it takes up a lot of the internet. So our plumbing models as well, we can have a look at that. Water systems, our loads for our energy calculations, etc., etc. So what I'm demonstrating here is that our solutions work with one another, and it's all, and at the end of the day, it's situated all on the BIM Service Center. Now, of course, with these specialized tools, there are technical documents that can be generated. Now, these are drawings, cost estimates, etc. And the nifty tool here is that these technical documents can all be obtained from the BIM Service Center. So I'm going to come over here to Files, and all the files attributed to this project, I can view, and I can also download from the actual BIM Service Center. So I don't need any applications to open up different file formats, etc., etc. It's all just at a click of a button. Now, that's what I wanted to demonstrate for the files aspect. You can see here how this sort of works. We've started off with a architectural model, and we brought it into our shared information. And then once it's a part of that shared information, and then in that IFC format, then all our specialized tools are able to understand the parameters of that architectural model, and then we can build, on top of that. So it's a sort of it's really great in a sense that prior to this sort of workflow, it was quite difficult to sort of get in touch with different professionals that work on different models, etc., and try and get, of course, the schematic drawings, etc., all the different files together. Here, everything's in one-stop shop. We're here at the BIM Service Center, and we can obtain all these different models and drawings, the technical documents that come with those models. So that's sort of what I wanted to go through in regards to the BIM Service Center. Now, if you guys want to have a look, we can come over here. If you guys want to create an account, it's quite easy to create an account. Just come over to bimserver.center. It'll ask you for your login. Just click up sign up. You'll get a confirmation email and confirm your email, and you guys have access to all these applications that you can download. Now, of course, the IFC Builder is free. This is a sort of thing that we'd like to offer to our users to play around with. And then, of course, once we go into these extended applications like the ones we're going to be using today, of course, we can download those too. Of course, what I mentioned prior was these plugins. So these are the two plugins that we use. For the Revit plugin, we have this one, our OpenBIM Revit plugin, and then of course for all our other solutions, all our other points of origin for our architectural models, we use our IFC uploader. So let's get into it. I'm going to show you guys a few projects at the end of the webinar. Now, in regards to questions, I'm going to be taking questions throughout the webinar, and also, well, if they're easy to respond, I will respond instantaneously. But if not, we'll leave them to the end. Don't worry. I will try my best to get to all your questions. And if not, we will do something to get your questions addressed, of course. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to open up Site 3D right now. Now I can come over here. I should have it. Now our Site 3D again is for the dimensioning of steel structures. So what I want to do right now is I want to create a 3D structure, and then we can head over to CyberCAD, and then I'm going to show you guys the interoperability between both programs and how we can utilize the powerful specifications from our steel structures, and then bring those over to our our reinforced concrete structures. So let's create a new project. I'm going to call this the webinar, for example. I have the option to create an empty project or an automatic introduction of an IFC. I'm going to create an empty project. And here we have all our different codes. So you can see, I've touched on this in previous webinars, but it's probably worth just having a look. We have all these different technical codes that we brought into our our solutions. So you can see here from South America to Europe to all our international codes as well. We can accept, that's fine, that's fine, just leave it. And we can finish now and start. Now what I'm going to do is create a roof structure, a steel roof structure right now. So what we can do here is I'm going to create some nodes. So let's come over here to nodes, new node. I'm going to select this here. And you can see here that the program is so easy to use when we're looking at putting the pieces together for our metallic structures. So you can see if I come over here to my horizontal, let's have a look. This was, let's say this is 5 meters. Let's say longitudinally it was 8 meters. Let's have a look. Oh, sorry, my bad. Let's cancel that. So I've got a 5 meter structure here. Let's go up by 7. So you can see here, upon introducing that third node, that the program already lines it up for me, and I can select my 4th node quite easily. I don't have to come over here and then do the same thing, which is quite nifty. So let's have a look. This was 8 meters. Oh, this was 5 meters. So let's split it up with 1 meter. So right now we're just dealing with our steel structures. So upon doing that, I can create a halfway point. And we can come over here to 1.9. Okay, so what we can do now is connect these using some bars. So come over here to bars, to new. Now, of course, if you don't quite understand how to use the software, that's fine. How I would suggest is actually playing around with it a little bit and finding just it basically comes intuitively. So if you have a look at the examples we have, there's also online resources to learn how to use the programs. We have our customer support team. The resources are there to aid you, but it's not that the program is difficult to use. It's quite an easy program and easy to use interfaces that we have. So that's fine. We can come over here. Now, let's look at this. So we can go. Now, of course, this is a very quick dimensioning. That's fine because we are restricted with time. I didn't quite get it. Just ensuring that it's in the middle. Perfect. Now let's right click. Let's up over here. Okay, so that's our little roof structure that we're going to make. Now what I can do, of course, I can hold down the shift key and using the scroll button, get a better 3D view when I'm fixed at a point and I can move around. So this is a quite nifty trick. Let's have a look just to consult. Yeah, that's fine. Now what I want to do is, I'm just going to connect it. I'm going to connect it together. So let's come over here to tools, copy elements, nodes and bars, select all these, right click, select our origin point. So just over here, and I'm going to move across this line and it will be 2 meter spacings. Oh, no, 2 meter spacings. Oh, not that one. Go back. It was. Oops. Hovering over. Okay, perfect. Now, right clicking to submit those changes, and I can have a look. I can come over here to Tools, 3D View, and view the complete structure. So that 3D view, we can consult the different changes we've made. I'm going to connect it up now. So come over here to Node. Ooh, just the center point. That's 8 meters, yes. So you can see here in no time, we can actually create a simple structure. Let's flip around. Perfect. Now right click, we can come over here to again to consult the 3D view. And you can see as such, we've created this steel structure in Site 3D. Now, of course, I'm going to show you guys later on when we go into Site CAD. There is some, we do have some practicality when we're looking at steel structures in Site CAD. But of course, for our more meticulous, complicated structures, of course, the Site 3D and also our other programs can be used as well, such as the portal frame generator. I could have done this in portal frame generator as well. But that's fine. I've done it in Site 3D. That's totally cool. Now, let's save this project. And come over here. Now, what I'm going to do is open up Site 3D now, and I'm going to show you guys how we can make these two models connect within Site CAD. So I'm going to, oh, sorry, I didn't save this. Should get an option. Let's open up Site CAD now. it just takes some time because I'm using a electronic license. Sometimes it takes some time, as well as the internet, as I mentioned prior. So just bear with me, guys. I apologize for that. So let's create a new one, webinar. Accept this. The program asked me if I want to import a BIM model. I don't have one for this webinar, so I'm going to click no. Now, okay, so this is where the first option in terms of interoperability with our programs comes. Now you can see here I have the option to create a new project. Now, of course, I can create an empty project, but the second option here is quite is what we're looking for. You can see that I'm able to import a job from Site 3D. Now, this it also sort of depends on the timing of your work, whether you will make your steel structure first, or your or if they're working alongside, you can of course do that as well. So import your steel model, your steel structure into a new project. But what we're going to do, just for the sake of this demonstration, is create an empty project. I'm coming over here to empty. Now, of course, we have the same options again. So in terms of those general data, so our codes, our specifications, all our loads, you can see here, I'm able here to introduce my wind, seismic, and fire resistance codes. Let's accept. Our limit states, it's fine. And here we have our blank screen with a totally empty project. So let's get started. I'm going to introduce some floor levels. So maybe the floors. Let's introduce some new floors. I'm going to introduce 2 with heights of 3 meters alike, and we'll leave the loads. So our live and dead loads is 1 ton per meter squared. Yes, that's fine. Perfect. So I'm come over here now to introduce my columns. You can see here that I'm in my column definitions tab. Basically, with our site CAD, we will progress alongside this tab. So from column definition to beam definition, and then once we go into our analysis, looking at our contour maps to form shape and our results for our beams. So let's what was going to do, insert some columns. So coming over here, we have the option to create a new column. Now, you can see here, this is the column editor. I'm able to select the initial and final floors for our groups. I can introduce those external fixities as well. And of course, all our different coefficients that I can manipulate here prior to inserting the column. So prior to analysis, I can, of course, play around with these. Let's change it. Let's change these to 45, just to give us some extra space, some extra breathing room, and accept. So I'm going to create one in the middle. There's going to be one at 5 meters to the right, and at 2 meter intervals. Oh, the 2 meter intervals northways. Oh, I think I didn't do that. Here, come on. Perfect. And now I can, of course, just connect the opposite columns as well. Perfect. So let's have a look. Upon inspection, you can see here I've created a total of 10 columns using the column definitions tab. Now we can move over to the beam definitions. Now, of course, I'm not doing everything that I'm supposed to when we're looking at a real life structure, because obviously we don't have time. So just a base structure, we'll come over here to our foundations level. We can amend our foundations. So come over here to foundation elements. I'm going to select a basic foundation structure. As such, I'm going to create some tie bands as well. And that'll be a mixture of both strap and tie. Now you can see all these different tie beams and our strap beams, they come from the selected code that I've introduced. Now, you might be asking, what if I have my own specifications? Those can all be edited with our beam options as well. So you don't have to select from all the different ones here. You can, of course, create your own as well. So basically the sort of libraries you can create and basically make the program personalized to yourself. So we can have a look at something else later where we can actually utilize our local folder to store all our different specifications and then be able to obtain those later on so that you save time. So instead of, so of course, if you're dealing with similar structures, you're dealing with similar structures, similar members, being able to store those members and those specifications in one place and be able to use them at a later time is quite powerful. So let's accept. Oh, there is a problem. So foundations. I didn't place that in the center. Okay, perfect. So roughly. Beautiful. So strap and tie beams. And as such. Now I've done this manually. I've defined this manually, but what I want to show is a great feature we have here is the option to design. So if I click this here, design, you can see here that the program will design our foundation elements for me in regards to all the loads that it's had prior. Now we can do that later on. You can do that prior. It doesn't really matter. Let's go up a level. Let's introduce our drop beams. Let's come over to edit beams. That's fine. What I'm doing is just demonstrating. Now I could have introduced a continuous beam, but that's fine, just for purposes. Let's introduce a slab just while we're at it here. Flat slab will do 20. I'll define this beam. Yep, that's fine. Okay. So now I've defined my beams in my structure. Let's create some. Let's just open up these panels here. That's fine. Oh. Okay, perfect. So let's console our 3D view now. And you can see here the structure I've created. So just a simple structure, by no means representative of any real life structure, but that's fine. Let's exit now. Okay, so this is where we're going to take a turn, and we're going to now bridge these two models together. So we have our reinforced concrete structure, and then we have our steel structure. So this can be done only inside CAD, so we can't go the other way around. Inside 3D, bring in a concrete. No, the CAD is the program that takes the bulk of the work and brings it in. So that's fine. We can come over here to our 3D structures button. So let's go through this now. There's two options here, so which I mentioned at the start of the webinar. The first option is to create the job in Site 3D. Now that Site 3D structure, of course, all the loads and etc. get generated in that Site 3D. Now we can of course create a new structure, and this would allow us to actually create a steel structure within CAD on this structure. But of course, we can also import the job from Site 3D, and that was the option we had prior to starting the project. So I'm coming over here to import job from Site 3D, and you can see here the webinar example that I have. Okay, right. So I've made a simple mistake. That's fine. Let's save. Let's exit. That's fine. I just didn't define any external fixities to the 3D metallic structure. Just bear with me, guys. The sort of internet takes a while to connect to the server and open up, because of course the GoToWebinar takes a bulk of the bandwidth, I think. Yeah. So this was our structure. What I'm going to do is just come over here to node external fixities and create all these as fixed connections. Now save, exit, yes. Open up again, Site CAD, and we should be able to import it. That webinar, yep, perfect. Now, of course, again, coming over to integrated 3D structures here, import job from Site 3D, the webinar example, and you can see here that that particular model is shaded in blue, and I'm now asked to introduce the position of the integrated 3D structure. Now, if you don't understand what the program's asking you to do, always look at the bottom left here. It says introduce the position of the integrated structure. Now, I'm selected on the first bottom left-hand node. I can come over here and select the positioning. So left-clicking, and you can see here the program shows me the positioning. Now, what I've done is, you guys, some of you may have noticed, I've just positioned the frame on the foundation level. Let's undo that. Import the job. But what I need to do is go up to the top floor, selecting my floor levels here. And again, those beams. Import job from Site 3D. That webinar example. And now I should be able to have a look at that program. Now, okay, so now we've brought in our 3D structure. Let's consult the 3D view. And we'll be able to see that the sort of connectedness of these structures can be viewed in 3D quite nicely. So you can see here all my beams connected as such. Now, the second thing that I want to touch on is, of course, the ability to edit our 3D structures within CAD. So you can come over here and have a look. We can, of course, create a new structure, but I can, of course, edit this structure too. Upon selecting the particular 3D structure to edit, a window will open of Site 3D. So you can see here, upon opening this window, I'm now brought into Site 3D. So I'm brought into how we initially, where we started off, and I can make some changes here as well. Now, of course, I can make as many changes as I want here, and these changes will be saved to this particular 3D structure that I have. And of course, upon these changes being made, the analysis can also be done here. So I can also analyze this isolated structure, get my forces, and then use those to transcribe into my RCC structure. So let's exit here. That was basically what I wanted to demonstrate in terms of editing the structure here as well. So I can, of course, view all the different integrated 3D structures here. I can create new connections if I wanted to. So I can come over here to new connections and select a positioning within my steel structure and create a new connection. I can align the structure, rotate, copy, move, delete, etc. Now let's leave here. I can of course introduce elevation changes. So basically, what I'm demonstrating now is that we can have a different way of bringing in that 3D structure into CAD quite nicely. So let's now create a new structure in CAD and see how we would do that. I'm going to come down to the first floor. You can see here, this is my my structure. I have the option again by selecting the integrated 3D structures. I select to create a new structure. Now let's create this as bar, random bar. I can accept this change. So now the program asks me, introduce the connections for the new structure. Press the right mouse button to view the available options. So let's create a bar, a random bar. I can select the positioning of the origin. Let's do it from, let's put it here to the first point. I can right click now and I have a few options. I can validate the connections and make that well, I won't be able to because it's just one point, but I can validate the connection. I can change the height difference. I can change group, and I can delete the last connection. Let's change group. Let's go up to the top level. I'm going to now select a different position on the opposite side of the structure. Now, this is just for demonstration purposes, nothing that I'm trying to actually get across. I can now right-click and validate the connections. Now the program knows, okay, that I've introduced two connections on my RCC structure, and I've validated them. So 2 points that I want to connect now by some way in a 3D steel structure. So I can validate connections, and you can see here now the site 3D will open. And I have now exactly 2 nodes at those particular spaces, and I'm now able to make the appropriate changes that I want to. So I can create a bar. Let's create a bar from here all the way to the adjacent node. And you can see as such, let's exit. And now upon selecting our 3D view, you can see that that bar has now been added in the structure. So I started on my first floor, I changed groups, I went up to the top floor, and I introduced a diagonal bar as such. So now you can sort of understand the sort of potential that we have here. You can, of course, now of course, when we're dealing with more complicated structures, we will use Site 3D and its full power. By creating these difficult structures and also looking at the wind loads as well and seismic loads. But then, of course, when we're dealing with these simple add-ons, we can, of course, consult these inside CAD. So it's quite useful in a sense. Let's head over back to integrated 3D structures. We can have a look here at where is it? List of integrated 3D structures. Now, the list of integrated 3D structures, what it basically tells me is it gives me all the structures that are present within my program, and it gives me, of course, a little view of each. So you can see this is the initial roofing frame that we introduced, and of course also the bar that I introduced. I can edit within the list of 3D structures panel. I can come over here to edit, and again, the Site 3D pop-up opens, and then now I'm able to use Site 3D for my structure. So quite a nifty tool to move back and forth between solutions when we're looking at either amending our RCC structures or again amending our steel structures as well. Yeah. Of course, what I wanted to show as well was the connection information. We can come over here and look at all the different connections. So I can see the position, the elevation, and the absolute level as well. Upon moving over as well, I can view the different information for my steel structure on the top as well. So all the different nodes that I've introduced, I'm able to obtain connection information from those particular nodes. Now, what I want to do now is basically, so I've demonstrated, and this is the sort of pivotal thing that I want to demonstrate in this webinar, is the sort of interoperability between our steel structures solution and our RCC solution, and how both of them work together to deliver the final project. So you can see here my SiteCAD RCC structure that I made just prior, and I brought in my steel structures project within SiteCAD. Now you might be asking about loads. Now, of course, when we're dealing with loads, so upon creating a new structure, a new steel structure in SiteCAD, those live load, those loads will not be transferred. You'd have to do it manually and come over here. So again, so if I come down a level, this particular bar that I've defined, this particular steel bar that I've defined, those loads will not be transposed onto the structure. So the loads will only be transposed to the structure if you're coming from Site 3D, you've generated your loads and you've brought it in to the structure, and then those reactions will all, of course, the program will take care of it. If you're creating new structures, integrated 3D structures from SiteCAD, those loads will not be taken into account. We'd have to come over here to loads and introduce the loads manually as a point load or a surface load, depending on the structure that you have. And of course, all those new additional load cases will have to be defined as well. So that's not really a large issue. It's quite, if you guys are know what you guys are doing, then it's quite an easy thing to get across. Let's open up a example project that I have. Now this is an example project that my colleague has created. And we can now view some extra potential when we look at stairs, etc. Now, of course, let's conduct a 3D view. So this is our structure. Now, you guys might think that there is no steel structure here, but actually the stairs are steel stairs. So they're steel frame stairs, and we've integrated those into our RCC structure here. So let's exit. We can have a look. We can come over here again to steel structures. This is the button that, this is where the party's at when we're dealing with interoperability with steel structures, the integrated 3D structures here. And you can come over here to list integrated 3D structures, and you can see here my stairs that have been defined within Site 3D and brought into our structure. So why is this so powerful? Well, it's powerful for a few reasons. The first reason here is that you're able to amend changes that you've made prior in a one-size-fits-all model. So you can see the project here. I can make appropriate changes to my RCC model and my steel structures model within within SiteCAD. So all instantaneously. So I don't have to go back into, or like I did, I don't have to go back into Site 3D and make those changes if I don't want to. So if they're quite cosmetic changes, I can make those changes here as well. So I'm going to come over here. You can see all the different structures that I've made. I'm able to edit structure and be able to go into the exact same page that I had prior within the 3D structures. As such. And what does this mean? I'm able to edit multiple structures. I have the 2D view and the 3D view as well. So let's exit now. And there will be some also, what I wanted to touch on is that when we're dealing with those live and dead loads, those loads generated by our 3D structures, we're also able to bring those in manually if we want to. So if we don't want to bring in the loads prior to starting the program, we have the option to create those additional load cases. And upon those additional load cases, we can bring in the different structures that we want to. Now, that was a little demonstration that I've done in terms of the interoperability with RCC and steel structures. What I'm going to do now is take some questions. So if you guys have any questions, and I'm going to show some example projects that we've created using both RCC and our Site 3D solutions within our program. So we can come over here to those structures. Now this is all saved on the BIM Service Center. You can see I have the metallic hotel that I've opened. I have some open already. So you can see here these structure. This is quite a nice structure that we can demonstrate the potential here. We've created our arena. Now you can see my steel structure that I've created in Site 3D. And also my my reinforced concrete structure that bears the loads of my steel structure. And so you can see the sort of connection being made not only with stairs, not only with dome, but also with these small things that we need. So tie bars, etc. All those can be done internally with our SiteCAD and Site 3D interoperability. So quite a nifty tool for using these projects. And of course, we don't have two models, we have one model. So we have just the structural model. I don't have the 3D, the Site 3D structure and the SiteCAD structure. I have one model that I've demonstrated together. Now, let's have a look at some other projects as well. So this is the Aurora Tower, and there's a recent project that we've demonstrated as well. Okay, so we've got a question here from Suman Polikonda. Sorry if I said your name incorrectly, I apologize. How to insert escalators in our RCC structure, please explain in software, sir. So escalators, we would have to create openings within our slab. So we can come over here to, like I said, we can come over here to my foundation level. Oh, sorry, not that foundation, not first floor, like that. So, Suman, you'd have to introduce openings within your slab. So coming over to slab, introduce openings here. And I have a few options here. So I can introduce a rectangular opening parallel to a beam. I can introduce rectangular openings with 0 angles, introduce rectangular opening matching with the panel angle, and also introduce rectangular opening with any angle. Now, this option here depends on where your escalator is positioned in your model. So I can come over here parallel to a beam. Oh no, not parallel to a beam. I can just with 0 angle. So I can come over here. Okay, so there. So you can see here that I've created an opening within my slab. And this opening, you can dimension it to your dimensions of your escalator structure. We can consult the 3D view to see that opening. I hope that answered your question, Suman. The questions are still coming in. We don't have that many. So you can see here the opening of my slab to make room for my elevator structure. Okay, now the connection design, we can have a look at that, no worries. So coming over to our top level. Now, Vishrunat asked whether we can have new connection designs. Now, you can see here the new connection tab here. I can delete connections as well. I can move and also obtain connection information. I can create new connections upon selecting here, and I can of course select the new connection that I want on the particular, either the particular RCC structure or my steel structure as well. And you can see that that connection's been made. I can of course change the different group if I want. So we were on the first floor, we can come over to the second. Also no, change group. Come over to the first, I think it was. Yep. And then select our second positioning for our connection design. Then add connections. And you can see here now that that new connection has been generated, and I can now play around with the interoperability with the RCC structure. So I can create a new bar, look at joints, nodes, etc. On the particular section here. So I hope that answered your question, Vishwanaj. Let's have again look at our arena structure. This is what I wanted to show as well. Quite a nifty tool. Within my structural model, not only do I have the structural model, but of course I have the different analysis that's been done with that arena structure. So you can see here, I can have a look. So you can see all the different structures that are made. I can also view some animations within BIM Service Center. Now I do have some issues with the internet, so I hope so we can turn the analytical model off. We can turn the deformed shape. Just look at the software. And you can see here, you can view it. Maybe I'll open up the 3D view larger. Let's go into full screen to actually demonstrate the capabilities we have here. Just bear with me, sorry about this, about the internet. It does seem to be going okay. A couple of weeks ago, it was horrible because I couldn't load any example projects, and that's sort of what we like to show the viewers as sort of example projects that we have. Okay, so coming over again to our structure model, we can turn all these off. So let's have a look at our deformed shape. So you can see here that I'm able to view my 3D, my steel structure deformed shape in BIM Service Center as well. So upon analyzing my project, I can save that animation and then it can be viewed later on. So quite a nifty tool for, well, it could be anything, but presenting to stakeholders, looking at the deformed shape inside your Internet Explorer as well. So quite a nifty tool here. Okay, perfect. Now we're going to let's have a look here. If there's any other questions? How can we download? Now, how can you obtain Site 3D and Site CAD? How can you obtain those projects? Now, you can of course obtain them by looking at our website, so at site.com, and you can view all the different options we have by looking at the packages, etc. Tailored to your needs. You can bring those into your workflow. But then, of course, if you just wanted to have a look, I'd highly suggest you guys go into BIM Service Center, BIMserver.center, make an account, and actually play around with it before looking at the different options for purchasing, etc. So yeah, that's totally fine. But of course, I'm sure some of our sales reps are more than happy to guide you guys into a solution that's right for you guys. No worries, that's totally fine. Now we have some questions that are Vishwanath. That is a technical question. I'm not exactly too sure I understand what your question is, to be honest. What I'm going to do is address that question after the webinar. And then of course, if I can't, then we'll refer you on to our technical support team. I hope that's fine. All right, guys, perfect. We're just going to leave it at that. If you guys want this webinar, if you guys want to obtain it, just shoot me a message and I'll send it to you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the webinar. I hope you guys are staying safe as well in these uncertain times. I hope soon, within the next few months, we'll return back to normal. We've also been affected as well, so everyone's in the same boat. But then again, this provides ample time for us to practice on our structural models in using SIPE. So there's no better time to get learning. Perfect. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Take care of yourselves and stay safe. See ya.